Well, if you're waiting to figure out if I'm going to get out the buckboard, I'm afraid that ain't going to happen. But hey, it's cold out today. I'm just trying to stay warm. That's all. But anyway, I'm also going off to a meeting. Too much drama, too much craziness. So, yeah. So, oh well. But I wanted to kind of go over what reconciliation looks like. Rather chilling. Not really. Bad play words. But anyway, Brother Mark, Turner Syndrome, Butterflies in Life. And wanted to... You may be hearing just an official call for reconciliation. I'm still praying over it and still in discussions, and I wanted to go ahead and explain what reconciliation is really all about. People think that when you if people have been in abusive churches, then it's kind of like there's kind of a dread of being called in some back office and back classroom and dealing with the church board Gestapo. That's not it. Although, yeah, I've been there. So I've actually got a lot of experience in cults and spiritually abusive groups. Among my resume, I've actually provided a lay counsel for those who have been in abusive groups. And out of result of that, I've also learned, since I had to learn what church discipline is and what it isn't. So, excuse me for a second. We definitely got a white Christmas in Columbus. So last time I think we did that was 2017, according to my wife. But I want to explain what reconciliation is, and also what happens if reconciliation doesn't occur, and what the purpose is. One of my books that has always been a go-to. I don't have the book. It's White and Blue. James White. I'm not sure it's James White and Ken Blue. The book sadly is out of print. But I think that has been the classic volume on church discipline and reconciliation, because the people that are involved are actually in Christian fellowship. Then I think that we'll kind of continue on with our church traditions. But so again, I'm not going to proselytize, but just try to explain what the reconciliation process is. There's also, in the Turner Syndrome community, there are also secular resources available too, which I understand are very effective and well recommended. So those are also possibilities as well. Okay, reconciliation assumes that somebody has done a wrong that has broken their relationship with God and has broken their relationships with others. And then White and Blue, yeah, those are the names. I could go look it up. I mentioned, give me a second, playing with traffic. Also, another source that has always been a go-to for me too reconciliation is actually a master's thesis from John Carroll University. Linda Kawentel is she actually now has a PhD in religious studies from Notre Dame. Just a brilliant woman. But her master's thesis was actually called Imago Dei, the image of God and restoration. And again, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but again, going to the if you go back and look up Kawentel, Kawentel, on John Carroll University's website, meaning Griselli Library, would bring it to the item. So anyway, those citations outside. So reconciliation once again assumes that in a Christian context, namely Protestant evangelical, although Kawentel was a Catholic, so it's definitely got possibilities there. But it assumes there's a broken relationship between God and each other, and actually there is a model of using the cross. We've obviously, when somebody hurts somebody, then they broke and broken God's law, whether it be in this case, in case of gossip, slander, causing division, obviously engaging in bullying and hatred. Obviously, we have broken our connections with God. We would and then obviously we have broken our relationships with other people. What really gets hard though is, and it assumes that a lot of people are going to be angry and a lot of people are going to be defensive, but really the position of reconciliation is, and the position of the church, of the evangelical church, or even in a secular mediation service, would be, what can we do to help? So generally what you get is you get an outside third party that secures the information. So I have these concerns, these bad things have happened to me. They'll go, and then somebody else will go and talk to the other party and say, this has happened to me. This is I have this. I have this, and then thoughtful questions are going to be asked to get people to really think their positions. Are the positions they're holding, are they sound positions? Now, in the case of the evangelical tradition, that we got 4 people actually that I would like to see come in for reconciliation. I can mention them on YouTube, but there are 4 that if I look at Scripture, have clearly broken scriptural commands. One of them is quite egregious, and in each case, it's exceptionally egregious because of all the person have been or are in formal ministry. One has said he's a pastor. The other one provides lay ministry in the Turner Syndrome community. Another one is actually another butterfly. Historically, has been in Christian employment, and then the mother has been in Christian ministry. Okay, those who are in ministry are held to restricted. We believe are held to restricted judgment. As such, it's not to read somebody the third degree. It's just to say, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself in the hot seat. In two situations where I was actually called in for church discipline. One was a disagreement, and then the other one though is I left some broken relationships in one church, and I wanted to go back to a church but before I could come back to the other church, I had to go back and make amends with the first church. So let me do the short one first, because this was like kind of interesting. Obviously, for health reasons, I cannot wear a mask. I've got asthma. My wife has social anxiety, and she cannot wear a mask. And obviously and just as a matter of fact, not trying to say, but just as explanation, the state of Ohio's got strict rules, and they said anybody coming to church needs to wear a mask. Well, what I did, it could have gotten to a fiery blowout, disagreement, and a lot of hurt feelings, and it actually worked out quite well. I contacted the church, expressed my concerns, and then the pastor met with the church board, and then my wife had a nice meeting with the pastor, and it was just like, I'd say sorry about that, but I was able to express my concerns. I can't wear a mask, but then also I was allowed the opportunity to walk in the shoes of the pastor. And there are some people, yes, who believe that that they don't feel right about wearing masks. There are some people who generally have health issues and cannot and have to wear a mask, and obviously, and we do have some members in our church who are symptomatic with COVID, and of course, I lost my aunt back in March, and this week we lost a sister. So, but anyway, so I was able to walk into the shoes of the pastor, and as it turns out, we came up with a workable arrangement, and I was really pleased. The other example, though, is where I was called in for church discipline. Happened in 2007. I don't know if I mentioned the church or not. So, well, I will go ahead and keep it generic though. So, and my wife and I were from 2007 to 2009 were an attender of a very sizable evangelical church in Cleveland, and I think and if I said that they have a radio broadcast, and then 3 satellite churches, that kind of might kind of give you a clue of where I went to, and so, and if I said where the pastor was originally from, I think somebody would obviously call in and be calling number 3 and say, "Is it so and so? No more calls. We got a winner." But what had happened is my wife and I were in an inner city church, and urban ministries got a lot of challenges and a lot of hurt and a lot of heartache, and we were finding that it just wasn't a very good fit, and unfortunately my wife had got into some arguments with church leadership that kind of made things really nasty, and we decided the church wasn't a good fit, and that's fair enough. So we went back to church we were previously attending. However, it kind of made its way back to the other church, and the pastor, who also had a great teaching ministry of his own, another assistant and teaching pastor, took me aside and said, you two got a broken relationship, and you two have got this. You two, before we can allow you to come back, we're going to you've got to go ahead and get things settled. You've got to go and make amends. And he said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to ban you from attending Sunday school, any of the home groups, until this issue's been resolved, and that I get a pastor from the church you left. So, okay, and I was happy to do it, since it was brought to my attention. I actually, that just for the sake of accountability, I further restricted my activities to only the sanctuary and the restrooms. There was a cafe and a bookstore, and just for further accountability until the situation was resolved, I said that I was allowed to attend service. That's for the worship of the second service, and so I restricted my activities to the sanctuary and the restrooms. And then when I was done, then I would go to the parking lot, and then I would leave. And we did have a talk. The other church, and there were a lot of hard feelings, but we talked, and we made amends. And then the pastor of the inner city church contacted the large church and said, okay, we've talked to him. We've spoken. We've been able to settle our differences in a Christ-like manner, and I feel satisfactory the issue is resolved. And there was a kind of weak delay, but that's I know. Sometime when the church does something, well, it could be a little faster. But when you're a large church, it just takes time for things to kind of work, to kind of work its way through, and that's fine. But in the end, I got a very nice letter from the pastor that had placed me in discipline, and he was very pleased with my willingness to go ahead and my obedience and to take care of it. So we had a broken relationship. We got it resolved, and there was so getting back into what does reconciliation look in conclusion. To borrow from Linda Kawentel's master's thesis, we're going to try to get two mutual people in for reconciliation, so we can hear both sides of the situation, where both sides of the story would be heard, and then each person is going to be free to express his or her concern. Now, if there may, and then the two churches that may be involved may make recommendations. Certainly, one thing though is for sure. In one case, if one party does not come in for reconciliation, then I think more likely than not, the next step would be to have them removed from membership and not allowed to come back until such a time that they have, that they're willing. In one case, as I said to one church official on this ongoing conflict in the Turner syndrome community, one person, I haven't discussed the second part, but one person definitely is in the wrong, and she's hurting herself, but then also disturbing is also the issues that I would have for concern would be the things that I would have is that when you lie, or when one lies, there's trust. there's hurt, and then there's distrust, and then one's reputation is really ruined when one engaged. That's why an evangelical church has very strict prohibitions on gossip and slander. I know the people though. Both parties. I know that in one reconciliation scenario that the people know both parties very well, and they've heard both sides, and I think it's important though to get both sides of the story. I think it's just important to get accountability, and also to restore the relationship with God and with others. That there is going to contingent on this though is that in one case I am going to ask though that one party will publicly come clean and admit to her actions and be willing to be part of a program of restoration to rebuild the broken relationships. And also the another party that finds themselves in active ministry and it created some hurt and some harm. I wish I knew where they would go to church, and I hope if they're hearing this message that they would maybe contact their pastor, or if they're in a life group, that they might start talking to their life group leaders, and then come clean, and then come up with an action plan that we could try to go ahead and sort this out. So that's what reconciliation. To not deal with it is like emotional appendicitis, and if it bursts, it could be deadly. It could be. I don't think anybody wants to do that. But I can tell you, as one who's been through discipline and one who's known how to come clean, just to have that weight off one's shoulder and to learn from one's mistakes and maybe teach others. That's what I call the brave butterfly. And I think there's a couple sisters that I think it's got some really phenomenal potential in this. So anyway, that's that's an explanation of what it is. Sorry if it took too long. As always, so at this point, I'm just encouraging. There's two parties that somehow we could all come together and sort our differences, and see what we can do to take care of the hurts and try to heal the relationship, and to hear where he's coming from, because in doing that there's a lot of freedom and taking from one who's been there. As always, take what you like, leave the rest. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. You're getting too many thumbs down. You know what I mean? Got to kind of balance this stuff out, folks. I mean, Anyway, I'll talk to you next time.